Welcome to Storytime at the Rubus, a weekly podcast about the Bonnaroo Music and Arts Festival. I'm your host, Sharla.
And I'm Daniel, and I guess Sharla's intro is a bit of a lie because we're going to be talking about Huntsville and South Star this week.
Oh, so it's a podcast about South Star, the South Star Music Festival.
Which is a little tricky because it's about a festival that hasn't actually existed yet. In fact, it's been kind of funny because on all their social media, it's pictures and things from totally other events and everything. Yes. And I think everybody's been kind of playfully making fun of them, but that's okay. But this is a first-time event.
At least they're not referring to it as the first annual.
The first annual?
I saw that on a website and a flyer today.
Yeah.
That some event somewhere was referring to itself as the first annual.
Well, you know, the Roo Run 5K has been the first annual Roo Run for about 10 years now.
Well, that's a joke. That's different.
I know, but I like that joke. I like that they're still rolling with that. But hey, everyone, we have missed a week or so there, and I want to thank the What Podcast for publishing some good stuff while we have been kind of out because I've been traveling for work and Charla's been busy with a new gig and stuff like that.
Yes. We greatly apologize for missing a couple of weeks. It's just been busy work season, especially for you, Daniel.
Yeah, I know. I'm all over the place. I'm about to be back in Massachusetts next weekend. That'll be fun.
It's been traveling all over the place, and I just started a new job. I think I said that a couple of weeks ago, but I just started a new job, so just really getting back into the swing of things after Bonnaroo.
Yeah, that's kind of how it goes every year. We come back into the real world, and it's like, bam, you got like a million things to do, and it kind of stresses you out a little bit. But again, I want to thank the What Podcast. They had a great thing that was recorded on the bus last week where we had a lot of our crew talking about the beer exchange and some other fun things. So go listen to them if you haven't. I think the same day that this publishes, they're going to be doing an interview with Guar. I was there for like a hot minute of that. That was fun. But yeah, again, this week we are out on the back porch. If you hear the plane going by right now, there's also a guy cutting his grass. You might hear it in the background. You know what? I actually like doing it this way because it's like you're hanging out with us in the backyard of our house.
Yeah, and if you didn't notice, we got some new furniture.
Oh, well, Sharla has been publishing some videos, so you might see it on there. Also, shout out to Sharla. She has been helping us publish some videos that are kind of giving a tour of Huntsville recently. We just put one out last night of Brooklyn giving a little miniature tour.
No, you and Brooklyn made that one.
Yeah, you were there. You were there.
I was the producer.
Yeah. But yeah, check those out. I did one over at the camp. We'll be talking about that in a moment. And we'll also be talking about Campus 805 and Straight to L. That's what Brooklyn showed off in her video. We'll be doing a few more of those as we get close to South Star. But Sharla, shall we dig in? We have been putting this off, and I figured that it's best for us to go ahead and do this now before we get busy with other things as we get closer to South Star.
Oh, yes, of course.
So we got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk not only about the local grounds over there where South Star is going to be, but we kind of want to go back a little bit. We kind of want to talk a little bit about Huntsville and how we got to this point. And also, obviously, we're going to be talking about our recommendations and tips when it comes to your visit here in Huntsville and Madison County as well. But Charlotte, should we roll the tape way back and talk about the olden days when me and you first started going to things like this in Huntsville, right?
Yes, absolutely. You want to talk about our first music festival that was in Huntsville?
Yeah, we started going to Big Spring Jam here in Huntsville before you and I even got married. I think that was that may have been our first festival together, actually, Big Spring Jam.
Yeah, it was.
Can you actually remember some of the acts that we saw there? I know Sugar Ray was one of them because that was somebody I was into.
Yes, yeah. We saw Sugar Ray. We saw Willie Nelson for like a hot second.
Yeah, we were there for about 15 minutes.
Yeah, well, we saw Willie Nelson.
We were 19 years old, yeah.
We saw this really good band at the time. They were the Stuart Mayfield Project, and
yes.
Then he changed his name to Matthew Mayfield. Oh,
I need to look him up and see if he's still around. That was fantastic.
Yeah. And who else? I can't remember.
I think we saw Widespread Panic there back in the day for a little while, so probably one song. They're very familiar with Huntsville. They're at the Ryan all the time.
Oh, shoot. Who else? There was somebody else that was really good, that was really famous.
We saw the Gin Blossoms. They're going to be back at South Star.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They must have a soft spot for Huntsville as well. But yeah, we'll have to look that up and look at those lineups from 2000, 2001, 2, 3, something like that. That's when we were there. So Big Spring Jam was at Big Spring Park, and it looked very different back in the day. It had a lot more space. I wish that they could do a festival there because the grounds at Big Spring Park are so pretty. But since that happened, there's a giant new art museum. There's a lot of other things. There just isn't the space for it. It started way back in the day in 1993, And it kind of ran until about 2010, 11. There was a lot of weather cancellations. I know we all know a thing or two about that these days. But it kind of killed it off, right?
Right. It was around 2007 and 8
Something
when it had
like
the weather cancellations. I know my mother and I actually tried to go, I think it was 2008. We actually tried to go, please don't laugh at me about this, but we tried to go and see Bo Bice from American Idol. I was back in the day when American Idol was really, really super popular. And we tried to go and see Bo Bice. We got in, and we were in there no less than 5 minutes. I mean, we were not in there for 5 minutes. And this giant cardboard box just blew out of nowhere. It blew all over us, on top of us, and my mom almost fell down. I remember it being a huge thing. And they kicked everyone out. They, did the weather call, whatever. And I remember, everyone was really upset. People were still trying to come in, but the point I'm making is that's why they make those weather calls, because it was getting so bad. And we had paid, I think it was $50 per person.
That was high at the time.
Which was high at the time. And it was only for those were the cost of one-day tickets. And I remember, we actually complained, to management or whatever, because we had literally not even just got in the gate, and they made the weather call. And it was bad.
A lot of people had that experience, and I think that was pretty much what killed them. That's what killed Sloss Fest down in Birmingham the last year, too, remember? So, on that note, we should probably make a little note to everybody that the dates that this is going to be held for South Star, not Big Spring Jam, but 20 years later, now, at South Star, can be a tricky time in terms of weather. There can be tornadoes. It has historically happened.
Well, wasn't Big Spring Jam held in September, if I'm not mistaken?
Close to the same time. So I'm just saying, I don't want to wish, any bad luck on the situation.
No, obviously not.
But be aware, be prepared, just in case. You never know. But anyways, Big Spring Jam was pretty successful for a long time. They had pretty big acts. They had the Foo Fighters back in the day, and they had a pre-Beyonce Destiny's Child there. I mean, she was there, but it was before she was huge.
Yeah, it was when they had the 4 members of Destiny's Child. They, who also played at Big Spring Jam?
Who?
Taylor Swift.
Oh yeah, she did.
Yes.
That would have been what, 2007, I guess, something like that.
It was way back in. I don't even know if Tim McGraw had even came out when she played. It was way, way, way back in the day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that goes to show how long of a career she's had at this point.
No, let me back up, because I remember I read about this somewhere, and I think it was right when she had very first just released Tim McGraw. So it was right at that there, yeah.
I know around that time she played a show at Redstone Arsenal next to the river, too.
Oh, cool.
I think it might actually be from that meme picture that has gone around, where it's the top picture is her playing on a trailer with her name on this vinyl, banner or whatever. And then the bottom picture is her playing to 100,000 people. I think that picture may have actually been from Huntsville. Anyways, that's beside the point. All right. So I just want to give you a little history. There's also some old venues from around that time that are no longer around, but I think hold a special piece in Huntsville lore. Our favorite that's no longer around was on Clinton Avenue here in Huntsville, and it was Crossroads. You and I saw a lot of cool bands over there, back pre-2010, right? Can you remember some of them?
We saw Old Crow Medicine Show. We saw Carolina Chocolate Drops.
Oh, yeah, I love them.
And we saw Alabama Shakes.
Right as they were blowing up. This was right before they played Saturday Night Live the first time. I want to say it was, I'm going to get this wrong probably, but 2011, maybe 2010. This is when they were basically just playing North Alabama and Nashville, maybe Atlanta or Birmingham that. This was before the first album even came out. The band was hanging out with everybody. It was insane. I missed that venue. The building is still there because it's in this historic building that's on Clinton Avenue over there in Huntsville. And we'll talk more about that area here in a little bit.
Well, that building actually caught on fire.
But well after the fact, after it was no longer the venue.
What's a funny story, a funny side note about that building, you were managing a band that was the last band to play Crossroads.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yes, and so that night that we saw Alabama Shakes, you could just go up and talk to them because they weren't super...
Yeah, I was hanging out with Brittany that night.
Yeah, so you go up to Brittany and you say, well, what advice would you give to a band, starting out, whatever?
She said just keep plugging away, just put stuff online. Of course, this was, 15 years ago.
She said YouTube.
YouTube? Wow.
Yes.
Well,
and,
she was right.
Absolutely. 100,000 million %.
Yeah.
Correct.
Well, it worked for them and her.
We kept telling the band that you were managing. Nobody listened.
They will go nameless on this episode.
Yes.
Yeah. We'll talk about that another day. We've talked about them before, just a couple of weeks ago, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, just want to give you a little Huntsville history. Now, let's jump up to where things are recently. The music scene, and basically kind of like the nightlife scene in general in Huntsville, wasn't that great until about a year before the pandemic, around 2018, 19, something like that. There wasn't that much to do downtown other than just go get a drink at your local dive bar. We never really got touring music acts coming to town. Maybe once a year there would be somebody recognizable play the Von Braun Civic Center concert hall.
They had a concert hall at the BBC.
Yeah.
Well, it's still there, but
we were lucky to get like Old Crow coming to town.
And that
once
would be
a year.
Old Crow, yeah.
Yeah, it was always them. I mean, that was just fine. But there was a Huntsville music group that started right before the pandemic, and they didn't really get rolling until afterwards. But they set plans in place for things like the Orion Amphitheater and Mars Music Hall, kind of like this new venue that's attached to the Von Braun Civic Center. And I think a lot of us were a little cynical about it at first, but it's hard to say that they haven't done a good job. Like, clearly, they've brought South Star to town, and if you go back and listen to one of those old episodes with the What podcast where they talk to Chattanooga's mayor, you can hear kind of the inside baseball of some of these things that we don't necessarily cover, but they covered very well on that episode. I think the mayor of Chattanooga himself, and I can't remember his name right now, I'm sorry, mentioned that Huntsville is putting their money where their mouth is with this kind of thing. And again, I'm going to cross-reference that episode, look into the archives of the What podcast to find that, where you can hear more about that. Now, the Huntsville Music Office, they have kind of described themselves as like a governing body that is putting together a roadmap for Huntsville. And it's kind of worked. I have personal conceptions of the pros and cons of what they have done, but before I jump into that, do you have any thoughts, Sharla?
No, I think that the first year of the Orion booked so many amazing bands, and it really kind of really shocked me. I mean, I was one of these people that really did have my doubts about it. And I think the reason that I had my doubts is because, you know, you have Nashville right here, and then you've got Birmingham down here, and you've got a straight shot 65, you know, the interstate. And I was like, why would somebody divert and come over to Huntsville? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So that's why it just really shocked me that we were able to book the quality of bands that we did in that very first year.
Now, that is definitely one of the pros. We have gotten fantastic lineups, not only at the Orion, but at Mars Music Hall and some other places as well, honestly. I still can't believe that I saw Fish for around $20, 20 minutes from my house last summer, 2 nights in a row. The second night I went free because Brooklyn got me in because she was working the brewery event. I kind of went and helped out, and I got in free for a Fish show. That was amazing. All right, anyways, enough of that woogery. I do have some small critiques, and this I want to preface by saying this is specifically Daniel's opinion. This isn't the opinion of like all of the Rubus crew or Totem or anything like that. This is me specifically. I'm not a big fan of how they haven't necessarily supported locally grown music acts through this Huntsville Music Office. To my knowledge, it's only been once that a local act has ever opened for a touring act over at the Orion, and that was the Pollies. They're playing over at South Star this year. They opened up for Jason Isbell because they're buddies. Other than that, I don't believe, unless there's something that I'm forgetting or missing, that has ever happened. And also, it hasn't been until recently that I have seen some of the people from that office support actual local working bands. Wanda was able to play that thing in the green at Campus 805 a couple of weeks ago. Some of you may have seen us talking that up on Instagram and stuff like that. So they're getting better, I'll give them that, but they just haven't had the best track history with supporting local music. It's great that we're getting a lot of touring acts. I just wish that there was more attention to that. Back in the day, at Crossroads, for example, when Old Crow would come to town, they would have a local band open for them. I know that's a different time, and the business doesn't necessarily work like that. I don't pretend to fully understand it, but I wish that was still the case.
I think it's just the business model of it. I don't think that it's necessarily the Orion's or the management's decision.
Yeah, I know. I don't understand it, but that doesn't mean that I have to like it. You know what I'm saying? I wish that there was a stage promoting local music at South Star, for example. that's the one problem that I have with Southstar. Maybe that's going to happen. Maybe it'll happen in the future because we know this is probably going to happen at least more than once.
Well, I know I did mention it before when they did Sloth Fest down in Birmingham. They did have a tiny little local stage.
Yeah, it was
and I
something.
thought that was really cool. I did like that. I did like that. They had a little local stage, and it was, I mean, not to be dramatic, but it was off in the corner over there.
The kiddie table.
But it was something that they had, and it was really cool. And I did go over there a couple of times. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Let me go check that out. I mean,
it was put on by a local label, and I can't remember their name right now.
But I was like, that's cool. You know, that's a way to like support local artists.
And I wish there was something with so many people coming to Southstar from out of town. I wish there was something that highlighted local acts. Maybe there will be, and it hasn't really been announced or put into any detail yet.
And you're showing your support for the local community.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not just showing up and being a one and done.
Yeah. With that in mind...
Being an in and out.
In and out, like the burger place?
Oh, yeah, I wish we had an in and out.
Yeah. Well, that's coming, but that's a story for another day. All right, with that in mind, I did want to highlight some of our favorite local acts. Some of them you have already heard of. I'm hoping I'm going to name a few that we haven't talked about before. So, Wanda, we mentioned her. Of course, she's played Bonnaroo twice now.
Well, it's actually the Wanda Band.
The Wanda Band. Well, last time it was the Wanda Band. It was just Wanda solo this past time when she opened up the stage on Wednesday.
Oh, well.
Yeah. But she does either way. We hope to get her and Cindery one of these days at the Who stage. Hint, hint, hint. Brad and Corey, if you're listening. All right, another. Them Damn Dogs. We have talked about them before, and their frontman is on our totem board. They have been playing here in Huntsville for years.
They are really good. Them Damn Dogs. Oh, if you look up Them Damn Dogs, I mean, pretty much anywhere, but particularly if you look them up on Facebook, Instagram, there's a lot of photos of them with the damn dog. And that dog... she has sadly passed away now, but that was Little Bit.
Sharla's Chihuahua.
That was my Chihuahua for years and years and years.
You had a totem with her face on it.
Yeah, she passed away due to old age. So
yeah, how old was Bit?
She was about 15 when she passed away. Yeah,
she's pretty old for a Chihuahua. Yeah. She had a very good life.
So.
One night we were going by Stovehouse, a place that we'll tell you more about in the latter half of this episode. And they have a digital billboard high in the air outside that venue that advertises the local band that's playing their little area next up. And Bit was on it. Little Bit was on the billboard.
She's been on billboards. She's been in magazines.
Yes.
And I actually inherited the dog from my grandmother when she passed away.
Oh.
So, yeah.
All right. So, again, Them Damn Dogs, check them out. They're kind of a surfer rock band. We love them. Drop Diver is kind of a punk adjacent band I have seen a handful of times. I've seen them open for Them Damn Dogs. They're fantastic. I've always talked with our buddy Lindsay, who owns the Mini Roo property, that I would love for them to play that when we have a big shindig over there one of these days. Another one that I have gotten to learn in the past year or so is Jane and the Huntsmen. And I want to, spell this out so you can Google them. It is Jayne and the Huntsmen. Look them up. I saw them open for Wanda at her album release show last summer, and they were fantastic. Wonderful voice. Loved them very much.
So let me tell you a quick story about them. I was actually booking bands for an event at work a while back. And I actually don't work at that job anymore. But, I was getting quotes. I was like, let me get some quotes from some local bands, etc. And most of the bands were quoting like anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000. Jane and the Huntsman quoted me something like $300 or something. And I was like, whoa, you should be charging way more for your quality of work. Because they're so good.
I heard them. They're worth way more than that.
Yes, and they were like one of the top bands that like I actually wanted. So I was like, they could be charging so much more. Like.
Anything else on them?
No, that was it.
Got a few more that we aren't entirely familiar with, but I know are pretty popular in the area. Rob Aldridge and the Proponents is another one.
They're pretty well known, yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty well known, not just here in Huntsville. I've seen them come through a number of times. The next one is very specific to Huntsville because they've been playing bars around here for 25 years, it feels like. 5 O'Clock Charlie. And I love the band name because it's a reference to a really funny episode of MASH from like the late 70s. They are kind of a cover band. They play all of these, like, I'm just going to say it, boomer bars. Like, I'm not saying that to make fun of anybody. That's just the best descriptor. Another one. This is really geeky and really fun. This is a band made up mostly, I think, of guys that work out at Marshall Space Flight Center. They're called Foot Pound Force. and they're kind of like a millennial rock cover band. I've seen them play a lot of local events and stuff around here. They're fun. And I want to give a shout out to the local Huntsville EDM scene. And one person and one event I want to shout out in particular is DJ Dace. He's a cool guy that plays things over at Straight to L fairly often, and he is hosting a new thing called FM Social. So again, that is f.m.social if you want to look that up on Facebook. And you got one, Sharla?
Yes, of course. You didn't mention Microwave Dave.
Oh my gosh, how could I forget? Okay, could you clue everybody into the legend of Microwave Dave?
So Microwave Dave is a Huntsville absolute legend. He has been playing guitar here in Huntsville for, I don't know, how many years? 40, 50, a billion?
200 years.
200 years?
Since they invented the guitar.
So Microwave Dave is just a guitar legend. I mean, you can probably just Google Microwave Dave and see who he is. He is really good friends with Stephen King. I mean, if that tells you anything. So.
Stephen King references him in one of his novels, like sometime in the past 5 or 10 years, yeah.
But he plays locally around the area. I mean, you can find him at bars. You can find him at art events here in town. I mean, just a wonderful, phenomenal
guy. He is one of the best blues guitar players I have ever seen live. And dude, like, I mean, he would be the first to tell you he's getting on up there in age, but he can still rip it. He's amazing.
He can, yes. He is one of the best guitarists, I mean, you'll find out there.
Yeah. So look him up, Microwave Dave. Can you think of any others?
That was the best one I was going to say, yeah.
We might
have to mention him.
Oh,
if you're talking local musicians, you have to mention Microwave
Yeah,
Dave.
that's not an understatement. He is a legend. He even has like a holiday named after him here in Madison County. I forget when it is. I want to say it's in the fall. But hey, I'll tell you what, after the break, when we tell you about Patreon and Totem and all that, we'll tell you where you can go to find these things and kind of give you our tips on what you can do when you spend your weekend here in Huntsville.
Hey, Daniel.
Yeah, what's up?
You told me to give you something stupid to kick off the Patreon.
I did tell her exactly that. I was playing miniature producer. I was getting her to tee me up. I'll take it. It'll work. Hey, you guys. So, yeah, you already know about this. I want to tell you, first off, things for our Patreon and Totem are going extremely well, and we have all of you to thank for that. We have had a board meeting or two, over the summer with our Totem board, and I can't tell you how fantastic things are going. Like, we know we had a few small hiccups with the mentorship program with Totem. Nothing bad at all.
Well,
just a couple.
There's no hiccups. There's just some things that we want to improve on.
Yeah. Other than that, everything has gone as perfectly as we could have possibly imagined. Things have just been running wonderfully, like the past month.
I can't believe how good the first year went for it to be a first year.
I know. We mostly have our
program.
We mostly have our board to thank for that. We have a wonderful board. If you go to totemfnd.org, I think there's a link up there where you can see everybody's names. And, of course, you can check in on our Discord where we have kind of like a very informal advisory committee. Basically, if you show up and talk with us, you're on it.
Right. Yeah. If you actually join our Discord, and the Discord is linked in all of our social media, if you join our Discord, you can actually just unofficially, be on the Totem Advisory Committee. You'll find Totem listed down there in the channels, and just chat with us. If you have any ideas, we are more than receptive to those ideas. Like, we want your ideas. We want your feedback.
Yeah, please.
I'm always in there posting like, hey, we're going to do this, please give me your feedback. Please give me your opinions. Actually, Kent, one of our Patreons, had a fantastic idea today, and that leads me into another thing. We're actually going to be potentially adding a new level to our Patreon membership.
Oh, so, this is news to me.
Yes. So, because you didn't see it on the Discord.
Oh, I've been busy.
You have. But more to come on that a little bit later. I'm not going to reveal it now, so more to come on that just a little bit later.
Yeah, and we're starting to crank up our social media presence on Totem, too, because we had something confirmed in the past couple of weeks. We will have an activation booth at Southstar.
Yes.
So if you are going to be there, you can swing by and see us or some of our board. We're going to be doing kind of what we did at Roost. So we're going to be making those little miniature Totem keychains. So you can come by and decorate it however you want, and we'll tell you about what we're up to. Bring somebody by that hasn't heard of us so we can give them the elevator pitch and tell them what we're up to.
And before Southstar, we're also going to have Totem t-shirts available for sale. Ooh. So keep an eye out for that on all of our social media. We'll put it in our newsletter and our Discord as well.
Yeah, shout out to local company Green Pea Press here in Huntsville, who is going to be making those for us. We're going to try to deal local whenever we can with things like this.
And we'll put, like I said, we'll put all of this information in the Discord, the newsletter, on our social media. So if you don't catch it in the podcast, I know I'm going really quick. If you don't catch it now, we'll put it all online for you.
Before we jump into list our Patreons, I also want to give a shout out to Milana in Nashville, who has been giving us some excellent advice. She had hoped to sit in on the board call last week, but she got busy. We'll be talking with her. That's just another example. You don't have to be on the board. Right. If you got something you want to pitch in with or got an idea, I know we're busy.
Let us know.
It might be a day or two before we get back with you, I'll be honest, because we've been so tied up.
If you have an idea, just let us know, please.
Yeah. All right, Sharla.
And don't be afraid to let us know also, because we are totally receptive to your ideas.
Please, please. The best place is probably that thing on Discord, honestly, because if me and Sharla are tied up with work, somebody on our board or one of our friends can help you out. All right, Sharla, that said, let's thank our Patreons of this podcast.
All right, we've got Charmel, Jums, Sarah, David and Aurora, String Bean, Taylor, Zach and Jeremy, Amber, Andrea, JB,
Jables,
Sam, Austin, James, Chelsea, a.k.a. Hygiene Queen, Ryan, Chris and Shy, Dan, Ernst, Harris, Keith, Casey, Dave, Amanda, Aaron, Nick, Maddie, McFerg, Bruce, Kent, Randy, Eric and Ben, Evan, Jay, Chloe, and Sean.
Yes, thank you, everyone. And shout out to Jay. I was just talking with her the other day. You can find all of this at patreon.com/Rubus. Every cent goes to the Totem Foundation. Not only are you helping fund what we do, but you are funding scholarship winners. So you did it this past year, and you're going to be doing it next year, too. We're going to continue that, and we are only going to grow. I'm going to give you a look into the future, the far, far future with Totem, but we are actually starting to think about what we're going to do with this international program. Things are progressing very well where we can start having serious talks about that.
And I really hope that all of you guys got a chance to meet our scholarship winners. I know I've said it multiple times, but we could not have picked.
It was amazing.
Anybody better.
Yeah.
Like our board, I mean, like I said, I've told you guys multiple times how we did it. They filled out the application, and then the board went in and voted, our top people. And then we had, 3 or 4 people went in and interviewed those top people. And they did such a good job. And our people that we picked out that we ended up, actually bringing to Bonnaroo just blew my mind. Just absolutely mind-blowing.
Hey, I have an idea, and I'm going to throw it down while we're recording. Can you get in touch with our 3 recipients for this past year and see if we can organize a time to get them on the podcast here in the next month or 2?
We can try that.
All right. You 3, if you're listening, you heard that.
I know one of them's in college and the other 2 have just graduated and started working, but...
Well, if we can't get them all at the same time, we can talk to each of them individually for a few minutes and put it on the show. Well, let's do that.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Again, everyone, if you want to pitch in, every cent goes to the Totem Foundation. Thank you to the cricket right now, who's being extremely loud. It is at patreon.com/Rubus. And hey, I have one more thing I want to plug before we transition back to the regular episode. And I think we're going to make this a regular thing from now into November. If you heard me just say November, you probably already know what this is going to be about. I want you to get ready to vote in November. So I have you a place I want you to go to check on things for me. I want you to go to vote.org. And on there is a button on the front page. It's really big. It's right there. You can click it, and you can see if you are already registered to vote. It just takes 30 seconds. You put in some basic info. It doesn't go to anything illicit, I promise. And it will tell you if you are registered to vote, and it'll also tell you where you go vote. So go to vote.org. It'll give you that information and much more. So, guys, I'm not going to go into this today, but this is a big year to make your voice heard and go vote. So, again, vote.org.
It's important to know where you are registered to vote, where you actually go to show up to vote. I know one time a few years ago I showed up to vote, and they were like, oh, your location changed, your polling place location changed. And I didn't know. I guess they had sent me something in the mail, and I just didn't realize it. So it's important to just check and make sure. So definitely do that. Definitely look it up.
Yeah, so sorry, something got in my throat there. I'm not even going to edit this. Again, go to vote.org. You can check your registration. You can register to vote if you're not registered. You can find information about voting by mail, and you can see what's on your local ballot, so you can do your homework for your local elections too. I'm going to keep plugging this, vote.org. All right, anything else to plug this week, Sharla? All right, let's go back to the regular episode and talk Huntsville.
Okay, Daniel, let's talk about Huntsville again.
All right, we got a lot to go through. This is going to be the meat and potatoes of everything that we wanted to talk about when it comes to the Rocket City. Let's start with South Star itself, because I know if you were going, this is what you want to hear about. Like, what's in the area, what to expect. I will be transparent, there's some that we don't know yet, because the last I had heard from the organizers, they don't have a plot yet. We know the schedule of all the performers and everything, but we don't know exactly where things are going to be at. I don't exactly know where the Totem Tent is going to be at. We'll find out about that before too long.
Now, it's going to be held at what's typically a sports complex,
Yeah.
but that complex is not necessarily going to be part of the festival. What's going to be part of the festival is most likely going to be just a giant flat area that's typically used for a fair.
Yeah, we saw one there in our video that we shot not too long ago. They had the Rocket City Fair about 3 weeks ago, whatever it was. So in that local area, there's kind of some sports stuff like Sharla was talking about. There's Joe Davis Stadium, which used to be home to the Huntsville Stars, but now it's the Huntsville City Football Club, the soccer team, as we call it
The
here
Wicks
in
Family
America.
Field,
Yeah, I'm still going to call it Joe Davis Stadium. I'm sorry. But there's also an Iceplex. Some of you may have met our buddy Brandon a few roos ago. He missed this past year, but he is one of the big wigs over there. He makes things happen at the Iceplex. There's also the JC's building for meetings and stuff, but there's also like tennis courts, baseball fields, and such in that area. That's all around John Hunt Park, the big area where all of this is going to take place.
Yeah, so the whole area is called John Hunt Park. If you want to look that up, there's actually a city website, and you can go in there, and it says virtual tour, but it doesn't really show you too much on that website. It's just kind of like the entrance and a few little things here and there, but you can still look up John Hunt Park on the map and things like that, on Google Maps and things like that.
Yeah, so something else that I want to give you a heads up about is I personally suspect that traffic and parking is not going to be the easiest thing for South Star. It is between two main drags in Huntsville. So the main one is South Memorial Parkway. That's almost an interstate kind of highway that cuts through the middle of town. And the other one on the other side of John Hunt Park is Lehman Ferry. That goes kind of between Joe Davis Stadium and a lot of local businesses and stuff. There's not a lot of ways to get in other than those two roads. So I just want you to come with your patience packed, because there's likely going to be backups for parking.
I would absolutely recommend carpooling
Yeah,
if at
please.
all possible.
Yeah.
If you're staying at a local hotel and you know there's other people going to the festival, try to carpool with them.
That's a great idea. And I want to give you a heads up. There's not a lot of spaces to park in a short walking distance. There's a fair bit at Joe Davis Stadium. There's a fair bit at the Iceplex. There's some south of John Hunt Park around some of those sports areas that we were talking about. But a lot of the other local parking are local businesses, and they may not allow people to park there.
We really haven't gotten the full parking plan yet. There was a rumor going around that there were going to be some shuttles from downtown and things like that. I know that the Huntsville music office is having a meeting tonight.
Yeah, as we record this.
That was supposed to be discussing South Star and basically September of music. So the parking plan hasn't came out yet, so hopefully we can get some more details about that soon.
And you guys have my word that I'm going to plug my sources, my friends that work for like Live Nation and C3, to see if I can get any advance word on that, on what it may be. I'll be honest, they're kind of tied up with Lollapalooza at the moment, so I didn't want to bother them. But once that's done, I'm going to check in with them to see if I can get you some advanced info on what to expect with parking and if there are going to be shuttles. I'll be very surprised if there aren't shuttles.
Now, a lot of questions. I've seen this question multiple times online about Ubers, Lyfts, rideshare services. Huntsville has those. And those are typically very easy to get in Huntsville. As a matter of fact, I took one from the house to go get, my car was in the shop a few weeks ago, and I took one from the house, and it came within 2 or 3 minutes out to my house out in the suburbs.
Yeah.
Very, very easy. But this being said, we have not had an event of this magnitude, of this size since Big Springtown. So while there's been Uber, Lyft, ride shares, we haven't had an event of this size. So we don't know how easy it's going to be to get one. So they'll probably be around. It'll probably just be where you have to wait and you have to pay that surge pricing.
The only thing I can think of that I have been to in recent years that compares in terms of like attendance and like crowd density is the Huntsville Expo, kind of like the local Comic Con here in town.
Yes, it's basically our version of Dragon Con.
But they have a giant parking garage next to the Bon Bron Civic Center where that happens. We don't have that at
John Hunt Park.
John Hunt Park. I'm getting ahead of myself because I was about to mention Bronze Spring Park. That is another sportsplex that is about 2 miles away from where South Star is going to be. And I have heard some people say they don't mind walking. That may be an option. If you were to walk across the park, you could be there in about, how long does it take to walk 2 miles? Just do the math. But just wanted to put that out there in case like you're bound and determined on parking in a place like that. Now, that is all that we know in terms of the actual grounds. I imagine that everybody in charge of the place is going to get us more info before too long.
Right. I'm sure we'll know.
Yeah, and we will do another bit of an episode where we'll talk more about that once we receive specifics.
And honestly, I wouldn't stress over it. I mean, I wouldn't stress over it at this point in time. I wouldn't worry about it because they will put out the information that you need to know.
Yeah. I just want to make sure everybody was prepared because this is going to be a very different situation than you may be used to if you go to Bonnaroo every year and if you don't go to a city festival.
Right.
A lot of people that do go to city festivals know the deal, but you might be staying at a hotel and just walk to something like Shaky Knees or Lollapalooza. Not really going to be the case here since there aren't really a lot of hotels within walking distance of where South Star is going to be.
Now, I have seen a lot of questions online. I know you don't have this on the agenda, but just to cover it for a bit, I have seen a lot of questions online from people who have not necessarily been to a music festival, and they have questions about what can I bring in, what is allowed, what is not allowed. They have an allowed and prohibited items list, or South Star has an allowed and prohibited items list on their website. So just look that up. It'll tell you exactly everything that you can bring in, everything that you'll need to leave behind. So unfortunately, most chairs, or most music festivals, do not allow chairs to be brought in, and that does include the inflatable couches, the wind pouches.
The Chilbo Baggins?
The Chilbo Baggins. You can't bring in your Chilbo Baggins, unfortunately. And that's just modern music festivals, unfortunately.
Especially at a city fest.
Yeah. Had an incident with some chairs at the Big Spring Jam.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. It's possible that you may be able to sneak something like that in, but I wouldn't count on it.
Chilbo?
Yeah, I wouldn't count on it.
Yeah, unfortunately, chairs just don't really mix with a modern music festival.
Well, I feel like everybody listening to this is going to know that, but a lot of the locals may not.
Yes.
All right, something else that I wanted to give you a heads up on the local area before we move on to other Huntsville stuff is there actually is one location that is within walking distance where you can get a beer or something to eat. And I have still yet to be there, so we will go check it out sometime in the coming weeks and report back. But it's Back 40 Brewing, and I think there's actually 2 or 3 of them throughout Alabama. But this one's relatively new. It's using a building that has been there.
It's a new building.
Is it? Okay, I wasn't entirely sure. I know there's a really cool mural on the side of it. But anyways, you could, in theory, leave South Star, go there, and then come back. They are going to be getting a lot of business for those 2 days because they're pretty much the only place where you can get something like that outside of the grounds that's in walking distance. So can you leave and come back? I don't see why not. Because it's basically the same people that had done Moon River in Chattanooga, and you could over there. So more to come on that, but I would be very shocked if you couldn't leave and come back.
Yeah, I would be shocked as well.
Yeah. I mean, if you really wanted to, you could walk about a mile to South Memorial Parkway and go to like Arby's or something like that.
Yeah, I would be very shocked if you could not leave and come back. But they haven't announced a
policy just yet.
Policy,
But we will check and get back with you. All right, some other stuff that we did want to highlight in the Huntsville area, because a lot of people have been asking about what are other things that you can check out both before and after. So like, before you go in at like 2 or 3 and then late night at some local bars and stuff like that.
Well, hold on one second. There's going to be plenty of good festival food there.
Oh, yeah. That's true. And I hope that they have local stuff. But we still want to talk about other things in Huntsville. So we're going to start with some local attractions if you want to spend a good chunk of time doing something cool before you go in for the day. Montesano State Park is an amazing thing that I think a lot of us take for granted here in Huntsville. It's a great state park on top of the mountain with a lot of hiking trails and some other fun things to do.
They also have a campground. Someone on Reddit messaged me and said that they were staying at the campground.
Oh, that's
really
so cool.
Yes, and if you want to stay at that campground,
it may be booked.
It may already be booked. If you haven't booked it, I would book it like yesterday.
Yeah.
But it is a really good campground. I mean, there's no like water features or anything like that. It's a really good like hiking top of the mountain type of campground, but it's really cool.
Speaking of hiking, I also wanted to give a shout out to the Land Trust. They're a local nonprofit that kind of keeps a lot of those walking lanes clear, not only on Montesano, but on places like Rainbow Mountain. That's one of our go-tos because it's just a few miles from our house. That's something that you should check out if you find your way over here in Madison. Of course, one of the big attractions in town is one that we're partial to for different reasons, the Space and Rocket Center. I imagine they're going to be getting a big crowd the weekend of South Star. If you've never been, you got to go. Obviously, we're biased, but you can go see a Saturn V, a moon rock, all kind of models of craft. You can go see our buddy JoJo that works over there. He can give you a tour.
So the Saturn V that is standing up on the highway,
that's
fake. Is vertical, that's fake. That was built in 1999. It was erected in 1999. The one that is sideways, laying on its side in the museum, it's real. It is the very first Saturn V that was ever made. It was made for testing purposes to see how they could move the rocket. And my biggest tip on the Space and Rocket Center, it is well worth it to go ahead and upgrade to a membership, because that membership is going to get you into more than 250 museums in the United States.
Good call. All right, one more thing.
And around the world.
Well, yeah. One more thing I was going to shout out is Low Mill. So if you're Googling that, is Lowemill. I'll be honest, it's not as cool as it used to be because we've got a lot of other cool things that have kind of sucked up everybody's bandwidth, but it's still awesome if you've never been. There's a lot of local artists. There used to be some music venues there that were used a lot. I don't think it's used as much for that anymore these days. But if you go on Saturday before you go into South Star, they usually have an artist market around lunchtime really cool, on Saturday. Yeah. That is definitely worth checking out. They usually do that on the second floor. And there's some other cool things in there, too. You can get some, like, ice cream. Last I checked, there was a bourbon distillery in there. All kind of crazy things. So go check that out if you've never been over there. Now, Charlotte, should we move to places where you can kind of go check things out, get a drink, get something to eat?
Sure.
All right, so we're going to talk about a few places that are kind of at large because they host a number of different things. We're going to start out with, I think, is still the hippest place in Huntsville, Campus 805.
So that's one of our haunts that we go to, is Campus 805. Campus 805 has everything. It's Huntsville's hottest club.
Oh my God. I was not prepared to have a Stefan joke, but yes, I could probably come up with one later.
So it's got speakeasies, it's got breweries, it's got
axe throwing.
No, they closed.
And it's got that thing. Oh, yeah, it did close.
Yeah.
I forgot. It's got our buddy Brad.
It's
like
got
accountant
an accountant.
Brad.
It's got a CPA firm.
Yeah.
Okay.
But seriously, let's tell the story of Campus 805
Okay, so Campus 805 used to be, well, one time it was a high school. Then it was a middle school. But most recently it was Stone Middle School back in the 90s.
Up until
the 90s.
Up until the 2000s,
Up until the aughts, yeah. And anyway, Stone Middle School closed, and the city bought it out, I guess, and then...
Something like that. But now it's...
Continue.
It's kind of like a hipster mall. There's a little bit of everything there.
And then eventually it turned into a multi-use complex with breweries, bars...
An arcade.
Arcades, a tattoo shop, a music hall. There was a coffee shop at one point in time. There's a karaoke place, and my accountant is upstairs. Yeah. So go see him also.
And also straight to L, but we'll talk about that in a moment.
Yes, it's really cool. There's a speakeasy in there. I mean, just such a super cool place. I mean, I really love it. The one really cool thing, so the middle school, since it used to be a middle school, I mean, they didn't gut it. The middle school is absolutely still there. I mean, you go through the gym.
The lockers are still there.
You go through the gym to get to straight to ale. That's where they store all of their beer. The speakeasy is actually, all the wood in the speakeasy is made out of the gym bleachers.
You just learned that last night.
Yeah, the bar is actually made out of the gym floor. I mean, it's so super cool. All the lockers are still in the hallway. I mean, it's such a super cool place.
That is our top recommendation for where to go after your nights over at South Star. You can probably go hang out with us. We'll talk about some of the specific places here in a moment.
And they have a little lawn in the middle where you can chill out outside, lawn games, all kinds of stuff.
So another one that's similar to Campus 805 is just up the road from there on Governor's Drive.
So you could walk back and forth.
Yeah, in fact, Brad does often. It's Stovehouse. Now, I prefer Campus 805 over Stovehouse. There's some people that would be vice versa about that.
I mean, it's whatever you prefer. Stovehouse is kind of the same, but it's not an old middle school. It was built from the ground up. Stovehouse, I would say, is, and this is not to be negative or ugly, it's a bougier version of Campus 805.
Yeah.
It's got more restaurants than Campus 805 has. So it's going to have this really fantastic ramen place called Kamado Ramen. And it has a really, really fantastic taco place. They have a taco bus outside.
El Cazador.
So good. And then there's a one inside as well, El Cazador. And they've got a great Southern barbecue place. I mean, just really good restaurants. And they have a bar. They have like one bar over there where you can get pretty much anything you want. It's a really, really cool place. But then they've got some corporate offices as well. And they sell like some old antique kind of boutique gift shop kind of stuff. So just a bougier version of Campus 805.
If you were going to pick one over the other, I would personally say Campus 805. But Stovehouse, it's worth a visit.
Oh,
also.
yeah.
They have a music venue in there that's pretty good. Wanda had her album release show.
Yeah, they have a really cool music venue in there. It's called the Electric Bell.
Yeah, friends of the show, Boot Scootin' Boogie Nights is going to be playing there before
August
too long.
August the 8th. Boot Scootin' Boogie Nights will be there. You'll be out of town.
But you're going, right?
Yeah, if I can find somebody to go with me now.
You got to go support Corey and the band. Yeah. You got to
I'll just go by myself and stand there.
Now we'll find you somebody to go with. All right. Another one that has cropped up in recent years that we also like. This was one that we featured in one of our videos recently. In the area that used to be Madison Square Mall for you elder millennials, there is now the Orion and Mid-City and the Camp. So just down the road, or literally across the parking lot, you can go to the Camp. It is a cool spot where it's kind of a proof of concept that they put together before they built the rest of the camp. If you go through
before they built the rest of Mid-City.
If you go through the bamboo forest, you find some food trucks and a little stage and a little bar. It's so chill back there. We like going there sometimes, especially this time of the year where it's warm out, where you can just go chill and have a beer and something good to eat. I would definitely check that out. And the rest of the Mid-City area is pretty cool. A lot of it is stuff that you see in other mid-sized cities.
Yeah.
There's a Dave & Buster's. There's an REI. There, a couple of things like that. It's right across the parking lot from where the Orion Theater is. It's worth checking out, but I would definitely go to the Camp. That's our pick for something in that area. Now, also, we were going to talk a little bit about shopping. You can do that in Mid-City. There's some stores and stuff there. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but there's also Bridge Street Town Center in the area. It's kind of fallen out of the hip factor as of recently, I would say.
If you Google Huntsville, you'll see a lot about Bridge Street. Don't go to Bridge Street. Just don't go there.
It used to be cool.
So it's a mall. It's a literal mall, and it's going to have everything that you can find in any city everywhere.
Basically, yeah.
I mean, it's a mall with, your H&M, your Apple Store, your...
If you really got nothing to do and you're killing time and you're in that area, sure, why not? But I wouldn't go out of your way to it.
No, don't. I mean, I'm going to be real honest. Every time someone visits me from outside of town, can we go to Bridge? I'm like, no.
We got better places to go.
We have better places. Let me take you to a real Huntsville place.
Yeah.
Let me show you real Huntsville.
Another one like that is far more easier to get to from South Star is Parkway Place Mall. It's literally just 2 miles down the road from where South Star is going to be. If you need to go to a mall, that's the place to go. It's just going to be the basic stuff that you see in any mall.
That's going to be your...
Spencer's Gifts, Hot Topic.
Forever 21.
Yeah, stuff like that. All right, let's get to the real good stuff and talk restaurants and bars. We kind of hit on it a little bit. This is going to be the rest of the episode because we got a lot of recommendations. Of course, the first one is going to be Straight to L. We already talked about that. But Homegirl Brooklyn works over there and has for some time now. And I'm hoping we can recommend this not just because we're biased, but because it is legitimately good. They have good beer. They have good food.
So that is my number one place to eat in Huntsville because it's very affordable for what it is. You get so much food for such a good price. I mean, I would say like a normal plate of food is maybe like $12, $13, and that's going to be like 3 tacos and a big thing of fries. Me and Daniel normally split like a taco plate, and it's like
huge.
$13, $14.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, and we're fine. I mean, it's just really good food.
It's good people too. We've gotten to be friends with a lot of people that work
Everybody
there.
that works there is just nice and friendly. And
ask for Pickle Nick. Yeah. Tell him we sent you.
Ask for Brooklyn. And also ask for Pickle Nick.
Pickle Nick. All right, we can talk all day about that. The rest of these are in no particular order. They're just kind of some of our regular haunts.
So the Poppy in Parliament, that is a fantastic British pub that's downtown. Cocaine Jesus likes to go there.
Yes, I see. We ran into him a few weeks ago just hanging out.
Yes.
Getting a beer.
He goes there to watch soccer a lot. Yeah.
Well, that's starting to be a thing here in Huntsville. I was at the football club the other night. Another one, if you want something fancy and you're taking somebody out on a date or want to treat yourself, is Domain South.
Yeah, someone was asking about what is a classy, like a nicer end restaurant. Domain South, if you want a nicer end, a higher end restaurant.
Yeah. We went there for our anniversary. Yeah. It was fantastic.
It's downtown, and they have small plates, or they have full meals.
Really charcuteries.
Good. Yeah.
Charcuteries. Speaking of fancy places, that is the one I would recommend. There are two that I would tell you to avoid. Avoid Commerce Kitchen and Cotton Row, and ask me in person why. I don't want to put that on the podcast, but just avoid that and ask me privately, and I'll tell you why. But let's get back to places we do recommend. Another one that me and Sharla have come to love, for reasons that regular listeners will totally understand, is Phuket, the Thai place, over in the Providence area, kind of going towards our house.
If you like Thai food, Phuket is where you want to go. Oh, it's so good. It is amazing. And it is in the Providence section of town.
Yeah.
And it's so good.
Very good people running that place, too. They've been sweet people for years.
They're so nice.
And if you want to try more of like a hole-in-the-wall kind of Thai place, I personally recommend Big Bowl. I kind of think Phuket's a little bit better, but Big Bowl is pretty good too. It's just a few miles from there. And we mentioned this earlier. Another place that has been beloved for years is the taco truck or the taco bus, El Cazador. There's tons of them all throughout Madison County. You can go to the actual brick and mortar one over at Stovehouse, but you'll see them all over the place too. And there is still a bus. It's over there across the street from Campus 805. Honestly, it's kind of the best because they're extra crispy when you buy them over there. Plus, it's a bus.
Extra crispy.
Yeah. Was there any other places you recommend, babe?
Those would have been my top recommendations. That's where we go all the time.
Those are the local places anyways. Sometimes we go to Fulton's, but it's kind of like a southeast chain.
Yeah.
It's over here in Madison. I don't even know if there is one in like Huntsville. All right. You want to talk bars?
Yeah.
All right. I know this is one thing a lot of people are interested in because there's not really going to be late nights at South Star, so we're going to have to make our own at some of these late night haunts, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to start us off with
Okay.
what clearly is our favorite?
Huntsville's hottest club is Voodoo Lounge.
Yes. So, Voodoo Lounge is easy to miss. It's over across the street from the courthouse.
You're going to miss this one, all right.
And it's underground. You have to go downstairs into the basement to get there. Is it still under that like Greek food place, or did that move out? I don't remember. There's a story behind this. I know.
The Greek food place moved out. That's all I can say.
Well, is that another ask us offline kind of thing? Yeah. But go check out the Voodoo Lounge. It's a New Orleans-inspired place. It's not very big.
Just look up Voodoo Lounge and look up the address. There's one little black table outside. That's how you know you found it. One little black metal table outside. That's it.
I'm just saying, for most of the Bonnaroo crowd, that's going to be the place where you're going to feel at home once you walk in and hang out.
If you're listening to this podcast,
you might have been to Voodoo Lounge.
If you normally listen to this podcast,
yeah.
If you're a regular listener of this podcast, you might like Voodoo Lounge.
Actually, when you go in there and look at the ceilings, you're going to see some Bonnaroo references. We've put them there.
JB put the first dollar in Voodoo Lounge.
Mitchell put something stupid up there at one point, too. I forget what it was. All right, another one we recommend is back at Campus 805 at the end of the hall, Lone Goose. That's a good place for, like, real good late-night hangouts. There's a pool table in the back. There's a chill patio out in front of the building. Get a green tea shot. That's my favorite thing to get over there. Any others at 805 you would recommend? That's kind of our go-tos, right? Yeah. Another one, if you want something fancy, if you want to ritzy it up, is the Bottle. We've been there once.
That's a restaurant.
Oh, I forgot. They have stuff to eat. I mostly think of it as a drink place.
The Bottle is a ritzy restaurant.
Speaking of ritzy, do we also want to recommend Stella's? I didn't put it in the list here, but I guess it's worth a visit.
Yeah, and Abel and Baker.
Oh, yes, both of those are good.
So both of those are rooftop bars that are downtown.
They're kind of ritzy, a little on the pricey side, but you're going
if
for the
if you're into rooftop bars, Stella's and Abel and Baker are what you want to look for downtown.
And speaking of fancy stuff, if you can get a recommendation, Oh my gosh, the Catacomb place on Clinton Avenue is amazing. Sharla took me there for some special occasion a year or two ago. It's kind of cool because you don't order a drink. You tell them the kind of thing that you like, and they'll invent something for you.
So Catacombs is a speakeasy, but I mean an actual speakeasy.
They don't advertise.
And you have to have a reservation, not a recommendation.
Oh, well, sorry.
I'm just teasing you.
Yeah.
You have to have a reservation, and they may already be booked up for that weekend. I don't know.
But if you're coming back, you should look into it. Yeah.
Catacombs, you can look it up.
Yeah.
And, they take reservations for like certain hours or something. I don't know.
It's weird.
Something, yeah. I don't remember how you had to do it, but you had to like have a password to get in.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and you had to like be buzzed in or something.
Yeah, you're gonna get buzzed in.
But you had to write down, what type of drink you liked, and then the bartender would like make it for you.
I loved it. It was
amazing.
amazing.
It was really cool. It was a really cool experience. If you're going for something with a lot of, ambiance, if you want that type of experience, I would recommend checking out Catacombs.
Another that I would recommend is the Lips Lounge back at Campus 805, kind of between Lone Goose and Straight to L. Now, they can't come out and say it publicly, but I think we can fairly say that's kind of like the Rainbow Hangout here in Huntsville.
It is a karaoke bar.
They have hosted a lot of drag queen things, and I think on Sunday mornings they always host drag brunch over in the Speakeasy, right?
That's a once a month event.
Once a month thing. Okay, so I thought it was once a week.
And I don't know if that's hosted by the Lips Lounge.
Well, somebody in that neighboring area hosts it. I went one time; it was cool. Some friends of the show, Ashley, and them went this past weekend, I think, too. I will also tell you guys a couple of places that we would personally recommend to avoid again. I would avoid Sammy T's and Jefferson Street Pub. Again, ask us offline. Why? It's just not personally where we're going to go, really. Is there anywhere else you would recommend that's a good hangout?
We mentioned Fat Sammy's.
Fat Sammy's is another good one. It's kind of in the downtown area.
It's a tiki bar.
It's pretty cool.
It is a little on the pricey side, but it's a fun place to get like a little tiki drink. They make drinks in different types of mugs and cups. Like you'll get a drink.
Spam cans.
It'll be in a Spam can, or it'll be in a little ceramic pig or whatever.
Another ambiance place, but for different reasons.
Yeah.
The ceramic pig. Oh, and shout out to that place, Fat Sammy's, also because sometimes they host EDM nights.
Oh, yeah, they do.
We've kept that going here in Huntsville. Cool. That's always fun. So, again, those are some of our recommendations. We'll probably think of some more as we get closer to South Star, but we wanted to give you this little guide to Huntsville since we know many of you are planning to coming to visit the Rocket City for South Star here in just, a little less than 2 months now, right? So we will add some more as we get closer and little tidbits on each episode as we get there and everything. I think you're coming to Huntsville at a good time. We have really been on the upswing in recent years. It feels like everybody's moving here, just like they had to Austin and then Nashville, because we've had so much grow up. We are proud of the place. I think there was a time more than a decade ago where Sharla and I thought we were going to move away, but then we started to realize, like, hey, things are really picking up around here. Like, our careers started going well here in Huntsville, and there started to be a lot more to do here in Huntsville, and now clearly there's a lot going on with South Star coming to town. You guys are coming at a good time. We can't wait to show off the Rocket City to you. And like I was saying earlier in like one of the earlier segments, I know Sharla and I are busy, but pop in on the Rebus Discord if you have any questions about Huntsville, any other things that you have in mind that you'd like to see maybe we didn't cover on this episode. We'll try to hit it up in the 4, 5, 6 weeks, whatever it is that we have leading up to it.
Yes, absolutely. Definitely don't be afraid to give us your ideas, especially about Totem.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, absolutely. So can't wait to see you guys here. We'll be back next week with a lot more fun stuff. Actually, before too long, we're going to have some fun stuff about round 2 of Burning Man.
Yes.
I think we might actually dedicate 2 whole episodes specifically to Burning Man here before too long. I was thinking that we would do one for the road trip there and then one exclusively recorded from Burning Man. And I'm going to tell you guys why. I feel like what they do at Burning Man is such a look into the future for what I think the group area at Bonnaroo is going to be, or what I hope it will be anyways. A lot of what we have at Bonnaroo kind of came from Burning Man. Like, we've talked with people that, kind of directly took the 10 principles of Burning Man and turned it into the code at Bonnaroo. If you go back, like 2 years ago now, and listen to the interview that I had with Rick Farman, one of the co-founders of the OG version of Bonnaroo, he talks about that. Him and some of his guys went out there and they were like, hey, this is cool. We can bring this to Tennessee. So there is a little bit of the Roo DNA there, and I think some of what Roo could turn into in a best case scenario can be derived from there too. So the first time we went, we were kind of like naive about it and like didn't really know what we were going into. This time we kind of know what we're doing, and I feel like there's much more that we can learn. Our group camp probably would not exist if we hadn't gone to Burning Man, right?
Oh, 100%.
We totally model it after one of the group camps there because we just loved what they did. Those of you that are thinking about doing a group camp at Bonnaroo, I'm going there specifically to try to learn stuff that we can pass on to you guys, to take some of those lessons and put them into the group area at Bonnaroo, because I think that's what we can get it to. So again, there's a lot more to talk about that. So we're going to do probably 2 episodes if you're cool with that, Sharla.
I agree.
One on the way there and one fully recorded. We will have other Roovians, Ryan and Jordan at Burning Man with us this time. So we'll be able to talk with them the whole time and see how they're learning about it for their first time. So that is about a month away. It is almost September. It's almost August, and we're headed to Burning Man the last weekend of August. So I just want to give you a little preview of what we're up to with that. Anything else this week, Sharla, or are you ready to eat a pizza?
I'm ready to eat a pizza.
Okay. Well, with that said, thank you guys for listening to our little guide to Huntsville. We can't wait for you to get here and radiate some positivity. But in the meantime, get out there, wherever there is, and radiate that positivity. We'll see you soon.
Bye.